So I wanted to review the basics of synthetic division. So remember, synthetic division only works if you have a linear factor. So synthetic division will only work if you have something like x plus 3 or x minus 7. These are the only time that it's going to work. So notice it has to be linear, so that means it can't be squared, and it has to have a coefficient of 1 here in the front of those x values. It's also important to remember that if your factor is x plus 3, that means that your root is going to be x equals negative 3. And if your factor is x minus 7, that means that your root is going to be x equals positive 7. So that's very important to remember. So I have x to the 4th minus 3x to the 3rd minus 7x minus 14. I'm dividing it by x minus 4. So this is what we're calling our factor. So then our root is going to be x equals positive 4. So I'm going to set up my problem. My root of 4 is going to go here on the outside. So this 4 is what goes on the outside. And then I'm going to draw my box. I'm going to make this really big because I want to make sure that I have plenty of space to write, because I'm going to, again, just go through a lot more detail than you probably need. So I have 1, negative 3. Notice that I am missing my x squared term here, so I'm going to make sure that I include a 0 for that x squared term. And then I have my negative 7 and my negative 14. So when I start off with synthetic division, the first thing I always do is I bring down this first term here, which is a 1. So now I'm going to start my process of dividing. So I'm going to, up here, I'm going to end up multiplying by 4. So 1 times 4 is going to give me 4. And that 4 is positive. So now I'm going to combine these two numbers here, and negative 3 plus 4 is going to give me positive 1. And then I'm going to repeat the process, and I'm going to multiply 1 times 4. And 1 times 4 again is 4. So now I'm going to combine these two numbers here, and 0 plus 4 is going to give me 4. So then I'm going to multiply again. I'm going to do 4 times 4 again, because I'm again multiplying every time here. This 4, I'm not making this 4 up. The 4 that I'm multiplying by is this 4. So this 4, and this 4 are the same as this 4 that is my factor. So 4 times 4 is going to give me 16. So now I'm going to combine my negative 7 and my 16, and negative 7 plus 16 is going to give me 9. And then I'm going to again multiply here by 4. And again, this 4 is my root. And 9 times 4 is 36. And that's a positive 36. So if you need to put the plus sign there, go ahead. So now I'm going to combine that negative 14 and that positive 36, which is going to give me 22. So now that I've synthetically divided, we have to remember what all of this gives us. So what information we have, and this is imperative, is starting from the right, we find out this is our remainder, which we're just going to label as R. And remember, since synthetic division only deals with my coefficients, the numbers in front of the variables, all of these down here are going to be my coefficients of my answer. So it starts off at x to the 0, then it's the coefficient of x to the first, it's the coefficient of x to the second, and it's the coefficient of x to the third. So what my answer ends up looking like is it's 1x to the third plus 1x squared plus 4x to the first, or 4x, plus 9x to the 0. Now I don't have to write this x to the 0 here, so just to make sure that we're on the same page, I'm going to go ahead and erase that. But I wanted to make sure that you had in fact seen it. So it's 9, just 9, and then plus my remainder, which is 22 over x minus 4, because that's what I was dividing by. So this right here would be my final answer. So just as a reminder, where all these numbers come from, my 1, 1, 4, 9, 22, that becomes my coefficients here. All of those numbers become my coefficients. So I have 6x to the third minus 14x squared plus 10x minus 4. So again, I'm just addressing what my pieces are. So if I'm dividing it by x minus 1, that means that my factor is going to be x minus 1, and my root that I'm going to be synthetically dividing by is x equals positive 1. So I'm going to put positive 1 in here, and I'm going to draw my box out. If I'm looking through, I have 6x to the third, x to the second, x to the first, no x's, so I'm not missing anything. I don't have to put any zero terms in here. So I'm going to fill in all of my coefficients, so 6, negative 14, positive 10, and negative 4. The first thing I always do is I bring down my 6, and then I'm going to start multiplying. So I have 6, and I'm going to multiply that by 1. And the reason I'm multiplying by 1 is because my factor here was x minus 1, so my root was positive 1. And 6 times 1 is 6. So now I'm going to combine those two together, and that's going to help me fill in this column right here. So I need to put negative 14 and plus 6 together, which is going to be a negative 8. So then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do negative 8, and I'm going to multiply it by 1. And again, that 1 is because of this 1 that's my root. And negative 8 times 1 is negative 8. So I'm going to combine my 10 and my minus 8 together. And 10 minus 8 is going to give me a 2. And then I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to do 2, and I'm going to multiply that by 1. And 2 times 1 is going to give me 2. And I'm going to combine my negative 4 and my positive 2 together, which is going to give me negative 2. So I'm done with all my synthetic division, so I'm going to label all of my pieces, because I'm out of numbers. Starting from the right, this is my remainder. This is my coefficient of x to the 0, my coefficient of x to the first, my coefficient of x to the second. So my answer ends up being 6x squared minus 8x plus 2, plus my remainder of negative 2 divided by x minus 1. So here's my final answer. And our last problem, x to the fourth minus 2x to the third plus 3x plus 1. So I'm dividing that by x plus 3. First thing we need to notice is right in here we are missing an x squared. So we're going to go ahead and add in a 0x squared there. Then I need to identify what my root is. So if my factor is x plus 3, that means that my root is going to be x equals negative 3 or just negative 3. So I'm going to put that on the outside, and then I'm going to draw my box, and I'm going to fill in all of my coefficients. So starting at the beginning, my coefficients are 1, and then I have a coefficient of negative 2. And again, these numbers are coming from this problem. It's all the coefficients. So 1, negative 2, then I have 0, then I have 3, and then I have 1 again. So I'm going to start off, and I'm going to bring down my 1, because that's what I do every time as I bring down that first term. And then I'm going to multiply. So 1 times negative 3 is going to give me negative 3. And then I have negative 2 and negative 3, which I'm going to combine together. I'm going to add these. So negative 2 minus 3 is going to give me a negative 5. And then I'm going to multiply negative 5 here by negative 3. And negative 5 times negative 3 is going to be positive 15. And now I'm going to combine my 0 and my 15 together. And 0 plus 15 is going to give me 15. And then I'm going to multiply 15 times negative 3. And 15 times negative 3 is negative 45. And I'm going to be combining this time my 3 and my negative 45 together, which is negative 42. And then I'm going to multiply negative 42 times negative 3, and that is going to give me a positive 126. So now I'm going to combine my 1 and my 126 together, which is going to give me 127. So I currently have all of my coefficients of my answer. So again, just don't forget that this negative 3 here that I've been multiplying by every time, That negative 3 came because my root was negative 3, which I got my root from my factor, which was x plus 3. So remember, all of these numbers are now my coefficients of my answer. So starting from the right, we just label everything. This is my remainder. This is the coefficient of x to the 0. This is coefficient of x to the first. This is coefficient of x to the second. And this is my coefficient of x to the third. So my answer ends up being 1x to the third, or just x to the third, minus 5x squared plus 15x minus 42 plus my remainder, which is 127, divided by x plus 3.